Rick, I told you we're gonna unfold a lot of these things. You mentioned a little earlier about technology and where we were in this space, innovation. You also just mentioned communication. I think we're in a space where AI is helping us communicate. You talked about just embracing people, which is why I believe that AI will never replace a human being because people need people, right? I think AI becomes a tool for us. However, I want to know when it comes to AI, Rick, how are you guys using it now, and maybe how would you want to use it when it comes to communication in itself, communicating within our internal team or maybe even our external teams?
Yeah, great question. I think the our sector, our population has benefited from assistive technology in recent years, and certainly in recent months with the advent of all of the different chat platforms, right? Most of
Hmm.
us are thinking that AI is limited to the bot that we're typing in prompting commands to. In our world, AI has been around from an accessible wheelchair that has the ability to lift me out of the chair and have me stand. That's artificial intelligence. We have the Boston Robotics. When we start looking at what the military has done in the field of robotics, that comes to the general population, and we find ourselves benefiting from it in the disability community from an augmented communication standpoint. I can remember going back to the early 1980s where this whole augmented assisted communication was taking place with those people who had zero speech and didn't have the ability to use American Sign Language. And so we've got devices, we have software that are being used. We have a young woman here at the Kennedy Collective that is essentially nonverbal, but is an amazing communicator because we have worked with rehab engineers to create pathways for her iPad device that she can use a head click, type out all of the sentences using various eye gaze pictographs, and communicate like you and I are communicating today. That's AI. And so we're using that with assistive technology, assistive devices. Administratively, we're using AI in process mapping, in process development, and looking at standard operating procedures in our business enterprises and helping us to write technical proposals for RFPs where we're competing against the small business community. When we're looking at the philanthropic side, grant writing, letter writing, communicating to a broad-based donor network, we're also using those chat bots to help create some of that pathway as well. And so I think in the next, I want to say 5 years, but I think in the next 5 months, we're going to see even more dramatic change finding its way into our world, helping our
Yeah.
employees do concurrent documentation using AI so that when Rick and Ephraim are working on a project together, we can just simply use our own speech to text and have the note of that particular session. That's a great use of AI.
Yeah, man, I do agree with you. AI is moving faster than what we believe, and I'm happy that as a nonprofit leader, that you see it, right? As a leader in general, that you see it, because I don't know that a lot of leaders are. I speak to so many of them, and they're still kind of behind, and still living in fear, And I think to myself, like, man, it truly makes a difference. It makes us move a little faster, makes us think a little, more creative. There's times I always go back to this one story. I had one of my board members, 70, maybe two. I might be giving her a little less years, but still in her 70s. And there's people that in their 70s, that's it. They're just kind of tapped out. I don't want to learn anymore. But I was like, hey, I see that you have to write like 10 to 12 scripts. It was almost like copy and paste. Do you mind if I teach you ChatGPT? And she's like, sure. When she was seeing it, she was just in awe of what it was truly doing and how fast it was being done. And she's like, Ephraim, it's overwhelming because I'm seeing it digitally, but I would love to just do it while you're there with me so you can kind of walk me through.
Yeah.
But it's cool that we are in a space where it don't matter what age you're able to use AI and it truly does help you. So I'm happy to hear. Another thing I forgot to mention about the nonprofit Louisiana Lighthouse, or it might be backwards. Their CIO, I believe, no, COO is legally blind, but she also deals with all their tech. So it goes back to what you're saying, right? It's like it doesn't matter what the disability is. You have a COO of a company, and they're dealing with all the tech. Like it's possible, right? So I say that story because we've been talking about it, Rick. A lot of people feel that they have a disability and it holds them back. I'll tell you another one. I'm a big wrestling fan, right? I'm a big wrestling fan. The guy that was going for the championship, no one ever knew because he didn't do a lot of talking. He started to talk, and you realize, oh wait, he's deaf. So this dude's a professional wrestler, and he's fighting for every single person that never thought they can get in the ring, and wrestle. And now the work that he has to do probably a little bit more work because he has to kind of read what's going on to kind of interact, but it's possible. So I just love that this conversation was it's possible. For those that have disabilities, because sometimes disabilities also you can't see a disability, but we live with it and we think that we can't we're not good enough. We talked about it earlier that we're not good enough, but you are. And these are the conversations that I love to have, Rick, because we're showing people you are completely capable of doing whatever you want to do. We have to just find the right resources, which is why we have these conversations. It's strictly resources. A lot of the things that you're saying, I can imagine people never even knew existed. Didn't know didn't know was a thing. But you guys don't just do one or two things. You guys are a lot. Have we not tapped into something, Rick, that you just want to mention about what you guys are doing at the collective?
Yeah, we have, my goodness, 74 years of trial and error. We have 74 years of innovation. I tell folks all the time that today I'm talking to you on a podcast right now, just before noon on June 2nd. At 1:30 this afternoon, I'm going to be speaking with a parent about a concern that parent has with an adult child that we're providing services to. At 5 o'clock, I'm having a conversation with a state legislator on a bill that will impact. At 7:30, I'm going to be giving a pitch to a group of folks that want to do some volunteer work. And so that level of innovation, again, takes us all the way back to the beginning. Our world is about being in relationship. Our world is about community. One of the things that we have that we are very proud of, we've been doing for almost 11 years. We'll be celebrating our 11th anniversary. And that's the Maggie Daily Arts Cooperative. We have a group of 20 to 25 artists that in those 11 years, we have taken from, I like to make art, to now they are exhibiting on the global stage. One of our artists was invited to exhibit last year at the Outsider Art Fair in New York City and sold 2 pieces. We're in a co-exhibit right now with a social enterprise in Greenwich, Connecticut called Coffee for Good. Coffee for Good partnered with the Rye Garden Club and the Greenwich Daffodil Society and the Maggie Daily Arts Cooperative through the Kennedy Collective to do an art exhibit featuring daffodils for springtime. We had artists contribute 20 paintings for this particular exhibit, and half of those were sold during the exhibit. We're looking at creating opportunities for people with disability to use art as their voice to the community. And so we have 3 artists that have been commissioned by local legislative leaders and by an international NGO to do art specific for them. The city of Bridgeport's mayor commissioned one of our artists, Christina, to do a painting of the harbor here in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And we had a huge celebration. And so again, it's taking a person who has essentially been invisible her entire life. Christina's been told time and time again, she can't, you won't, it's not worth trying. And now every time I see her, she's asking, when's the next time somebody's giving me a commission to paint? Who's next? Who are you going to introduce me to the next time? The other thing that's happening here at TKC, and sometimes I shorten ourselves from the Kennedy Collective to TKC, the other thing is really looking at how are we able to stand up and support small businesses with our workforce? How do we create opportunities for commercial businesses within our community and internationally to bring our workforce to their solution? So we've got joint ventures that we've created with service-disabled veteran-owned businesses, international NGOs in the clean water space, Canadian food manufacturing firms, Canadian beverage manufacturers, American dairy, American clothing manufacturers. We're going to be in New Jersey with a large small business that makes military clothing on Wednesday, and we're looking at the potential of providing some third-party logistics for this small business that's much larger than the Kennedy Collective, because we have a ready, willing, and able workforce. They just need to be given the opportunity. We spoke earlier about injury, right? We spoke earlier about fear. The Lighthouse for the Blind in Louisiana having their blind employees working on high-end machinery. I've seen the Arizona Industries for the Blind and their CNC lathe machines that they're manufacturing the stretchers that are being used by our military in battlefields. Not a single person gets injured operating those machines because they're not willing to take a risk that you and I may be willing to take as shortcut. Our folks with disabilities don't want to take that risk and lose the job that in some cases took their entire life to get. And so that's the other piece that we're doing here at TKC, and that all falls back to I am somebody. It is possible that I could be doing something that I know nothing about. But once I learn it, I show up every day. I will decrease the small business and the nonprofits workers' compensation rates because I'm not standing on a chair changing a light bulb as a janitor. I'm not putting my hand into a paper shredder to clear out stuffed pages, etc. I'm not willing to take that particular risk, but I am willing to show up during a snowstorm. I'm willing to stay late. I'm willing to get everything in order for you business owner or you nonprofit to be successful, because I'll ultimately be successful.